From the very moment you come into this world, there is a scheme, a plot, a plan to make you as miserable as possible. And without getting too much into who's behind this, because believe me, there are smart people, knowledgeable people, not wise. Wisdom is different. You can know a lot of things but lack wisdom. There are lots of people who call themselves the ones who know. Okay, there's another word for it, but we gotta be careful here for the algorithm, right? The ones who know, the ones who have a light bulb illuminating their head and their bodies and their minds. Okay, and these people, for various different reasons, I'm not gonna get into it, this is a whole different video on itself, okay, but I'm gonna summarize it in one sentence. There is a harvesting of negative energies going on this plane of existence, okay? There is a lot of folks involved beyond the seen world, unseen forces, both loving, benevolent forces and dark, evil forces, okay? All these, the battle for good versus evil, all these movies you see, Star Wars, Lord of the Rings, the Bible, all these scriptures, the Bhagavad Gita, right? What's his name? The main guy in Bhagavad Gita. Not Krishna, the other guy. Krishna was his counsel. Anyway, Arjuna, right? Arjuna is the good guy. He's fighting his cousins. His cousins are, you know, they're acting in a less than loving way, to say the least. Okay, so, all right, there is a battle going on. It's part of the duality. We're in a playground that is both a playground and a class. It's a school. All right. So there we go. We got all of that out of the way. There is a harvesting of negative energies going on this plane by certain individuals, both in the seen and the unseen worlds, that have come to positions of influence and positions of power. And believe me, it's very illusory. Once you break free of their constructed socioeconomic matrix, then they have no control over you. They have no power over you. So it is power, but albeit an illusion of power. They have the illusion of power. And if you buy into their stories, if you buy into their socioeconomic matrix, if you buy into their systems, then they have control and power over you. Therefore, you're guaranteed to be miserable. You're guaranteed to be anxious. You're guaranteed to be depressed. That brings us to the main core of this video, the main topic of this video, which is anxiety and depression. So once you sort of find out, okay, there are these individuals in the seen, on the unseen, and the unseen worlds, then you begin to realize the game is rigged to make you as miserable as possible, as anxious as possible, as depressed as possible. So from the minute you come into this world, you're given certain snake venom, okay? And we're not talking about the current snake venom that's going on. We're talking about, you know, a bunch of them, all right? My brother showed me his snake venom record, and whatever, it was pretty eventful. And whatever his record shows, it's probably mine too. I don't have my snake venom record. Anyway, so you begin, boom, right, ching, right away. You're given that, and then it continues. So, first of all, there are exceptionally few parents that are even fit to be parented. They're in and of themselves traumatized by this world. So you're ensured to be brought and born into traumatized parents who, just because of the ignorance, simply, not because they don't love you, they can't take care of you properly, they pass on their traumas to you. So you pick those up, and then, man, you know, you really begin to be indoctrinated into this socioeconomic matrix, this carefully constructed socioeconomic matrix, which is designed to really harvest your soul. It really is. Okay, so basically, as you spend more and more time being plugged into the socioeconomic matrix, and virtually all of us, unless you were born to parents that were living off grid and you just grew up barefoot, walking around in the forest and in the jungle and in the grass, and unless you were that type of very rare individual, then all of us still are to some extent plugged into the socioeconomic matrix. All right, so therefore, that's a guarantee. The more plugged you are, it's guaranteed that your nervous system is fried and you're constantly operating in a fight or flight modality of being, modality of living and doing. You're constantly stressed. Your nervous system is constantly anxious and is constantly living as if there is a impending doom, some kind of a piano hanging above your head and it can fall any second. That's what anxiety is, isn't it? That's what living with anxiety day to day, moment to moment feels like, doesn't it? Like there is a piano, it's hanging in front of your head or above your head, and anytime it can fall. You don't know when, but it can. Anytime, any minute, any second. Today or tomorrow or in the next 2 minutes, it always feels like that piano's hanging above your head. That's what living with anxiety feels like, I'm sure, Why am I sure? Because in the past, I've experienced that type of chronic anxiety. And even more profoundly, I've experienced depression. Who hasn't? At some point, right? Who hasn't experienced chronic anxiety? Who hasn't experienced some form of depression to a varying degree? Okay, depression is the next step to anxiety. You live so much with anxiety, your nervous system collapses, you collapse, and then you're just like, I'm just gonna sleep for 12 hours and I don't want to do anything because it's too scary out there in the world. Everybody's out to get you. Nobody's got a heart, nobody cares for you. It's a dog eat dog type of world, and the anxiety gets too overwhelming and it results in a depression. It's like, all right, I give up. I'm just gonna hang out in bed, and that can also lead to suicidal thoughts, etc., etc., etc. So, so you have to really understand. You really have to understand where all of this is coming from, because if we're lost somewhere. If you find yourself lost somewhere, let's say you find yourself lost somewhere, it helps to see where you came from, because even if you're going to ask someone for directions or whatever, it may be useful to tell them where you came from and where you want to go. So it's important to know where you came from and where you want to go. Like if you were walking, and after half an hour you realize, oh shit, I dropped my car keys. The only way you're gonna find your car keys is if you were to go back and be like, okay, let's track where I was and where could I possibly find the car keys? Because if you don't, then you don't know where the car keys are. You don't know where you came from. You're like, well, it could be anywhere. The world's a big place, isn't it? And so it helps. And it also helps to know where you're going. All right? So this is where you came from. It's, in other words, not really your fault. Okay? It really isn't. Although from a soul perspective, you came here fully knowing the game is rigged. And in fact, you came here to unrig the game. Okay? Unrig the game, or simply just like, free and liberate yourself from, the constant going around like in the samsara. So anyway, you basically came here to unrig it in some way or another, and you come here and sometimes you're successful and a lot of times you're not successful, so you have to come back again. So anyway, you're here to unrig the system, to unrig this, at least liberate yourself, at the very least. And by liberating yourself, you can help others liberate themselves. So where you're going is freedom. That's where you're going. All right, freedom from all these shackles, all the bondage you're born into. All right? And one of the bondage that you're born into is like your fried nervous system is bonding you. Your anxious patterns, your anxious thoughts anxious behavior, your constant fear. That piano, there's no piano, by the way. Okay, there really isn't. No matter what you think, there really isn't. And one of the ways the harvesting of the negative energies happens here is they have to keep the masses in constant fear, because fear is actually the energy that enables them to harvest the energies. Okay? So you have to, fear, anxiety is fear, basically. So what you're here to do is you're here to become free. Free of all the shackles, free of fear, free of depression, anxiety, and and as a result, full of life, which is the opposite of depression. Full of the life, like a child. Think of your 4-year-old self. In all likelihood, with some exceptions, but in all likelihood, your 4-year-old self was vital, full of life, because why? It was still in the early stages of corruption. It was in the early stages of indoctrination to the socioeconomic matrix. Because of that, you were lively. And you know what? If you free yourself from the shackles, you shall be a child again. You shall be full of life again. You shall be full of light again. You shall be free of fear, free of anxiety. Full of life is the opposite of depression, so free of depression. You see? Unless ye become like children, ye shall not enter the kingdom of heaven. That's what Jesus of Nazareth said, didn't he? So, alright, great, fine, beautiful, beautiful. I now know where I came from, I know where I want to be. How do I get there? Well, this is where the coding Master Yoda becomes useful. You must unlearn what you have learned. So that's what you must do. You must unlearn what you have learned. You must unlearn everything you have learned to be. You must question everything. So, for example, this will lead us to the grandiose conclusion of this video. For instance, you have to start questioning, okay, so I live, let's say, I'm going to use myself as an example here. So when I began to go into this period of questioning, I was living in a Canadian city called Hamilton, with about 600,000 people, so quite significant, not the biggest of cities, but not the smallest neither, over 500,000 is quite a bit, right? It's not like you can walk from part of the city to part of the city in like an hour. No, you need more than that. It's a city. It's a city, right? So when I was going through this phase, I began to question, like, artificial lights. What are they about? And I start to learn more about the human body, how at nighttime the darkness activates the melatonin, which relaxes you, helps you sleep. And I was like, shouldn't be doing that. So one thing I started to do is when it went dark, I would turn off all the lights in my house. Maybe I'll watch something like, before bed or something like that. But for the most part, everything around me was dark. I started doing that because I realized I've just simply been indoctrinated into, like, it's just, I grew up like that. So I thought that, monkey sees, monkey does. Monkey sees, monkey does. So I thought, that's just what you do, like, at nighttime, just turn on the light. Now it turns out that those artificial lights are really stressing you. You see how I mean by the game is rigged and you're here to unrig it? These artificial lights are stressing you out. They're interfering with your hormonal activity, interfering with the natural patterns. So basically, what we mean when we say you must unlearn what you have learned is question everything and start taking the path of least resistance. What is the path of least resistance? The path of least resistance is the one most aligned with your health, well-being, happiness, joy, and harmony. So it turns out, if you take out the artificial lights from your life to the best of your ability wherever you are, then it turns out you're less stressful. It turns out you sleep better. Your body is actually able to produce adequate amounts of melatonin, you know, melatonin, it's like a little pill you could take over the counter, is one of the highest selling pills because people are having difficult time falling asleep and staying asleep. You see, there's stress. You're stressed. Your body is like, I'm stressed. I just want to sleep, but I'm kind of confused. There's light, you know, because your body is like can't really distinguish between sunlight and artificial light. So your body's like, I kind of should be sleeping now, but I can't. Should I be producing melatonin right now? But there's light. It's confused. It's stressed. So as you continue to question everything, you begin to take the path of least resistance. So you can start slowly and then take it a step further. So my next step after that was like, okay, but I was still in an apartment building. It was, you know, and of course there's so many things. I was still in an apartment building, little space. It's like, you know, there's so many people around, so much noise. I was on a main street. I was like, all right, I'll go live somewhere a little outside of the city, at the very end of it. No, that was nice, very nice. I started sleeping better. Everything got improved in so many ways. I'm taking the path of least resistance. I'm trying to take the path that leads to the highest health, wellness, happiness, and harmony. Least stressful path, essentially. Okay? That was nice. Then I wanted to take it a step further and I started traveling. I left Canada, and now look where I live. You see, let's see. I think I can show. There we go. See where I live now. Can you spot? There is, but you probably can't spot it right now. Can you spot any artificial lights? No, you probably can't. There are just a few down there, right about right here, but you can't even see them. Well, it's because of the sun, but you won't be able to see them anyway. Very few. So basically, when it turns dark here, it is dark, and as soon as it's dark, like I'm yawning, I'm getting sleepy. I can feel the melatonin flowing through my body, beautiful, harmonious. You know, I sleep so wonderfully here, so wonderfully, like just amazing, very quiet. With the occasion, see my neighbor, I talked about him in the past. With the occasional, every 2 weeks or so, we'll have like a neighbor will throw a party. It's annoying, but you know, you gotta just kind of count your blessings. The fact that, you know, live here, it's quiet at night, just hear the sounds of crickets, and there's no artificial light. So look, basically, again, I took the path in this case of least resistance. What do I mean by least resistance? It's the most harmonious. It's the least stressful on my body. My body feels great that way. It feels better. My mind feels better. You see? And like another thing is like the noises of cities, right? Like they are very disharmonious and they cause anxiety, man. They make you anxious. Living in a modern city makes you anxious. Everything in it is designed that way. The sounds of the cars, of the machines, and the honking, and people everywhere. Humans like their space. They don't want, like, you know, they like their space. We're not used to be living amongst a million people. Can we adapt? Sure. Is that the best for us? No. It really isn't. Adaptability is both our greatest blessing and our greatest curse. Why our greatest blessing and our greatest curse? Because we are blessed to be able to still adapt and go on, but it's a curse because we just, like, I was adapted to artificial lights. I thought that's just how it is, but it was stressing me. I had so many, now I know why I had so much trouble sleeping. Well, one of the reasons, but that's a main reason. Okay? And the further you dig into the rabbit hole, you begin to find out more things. You begin to find out the things in the water supply, the things they put in the so-called food. It's not really food, you know, just a glorified term for drugs, right? Yeah, and then you find out and you're like, all right, I'm not gonna eat that anymore, and I'm gonna, you know, drink different type of water, and I'm gonna do this, and I'm gonna do that, and then you find out and you're like, whoa, you find out, oh wow, you know, eating chocolate, like chocolate's everywhere. Eating chocolate's like coffee. Coffee's another one. Those are stimulants. They make you anxious. They activate the flight or fight response. Okay, and so stimulants, coffee, chocolate, things like that, you remove them, you have less anxiety suddenly. And so you keep going down the rabbit hole, you keep unlearning what you have learned. And as you continue to do that, and you continue to do that, and you continue to do that, you notice I'm less and less anxious, and I have more energy, and I have more life force, and I have more inspiration. And then you implement these new programs, these new habits, you align yourself with the path of least resistance, which is the most harmonious path, the path that leads to the highest level of well-being and wellness and health and joy and happiness and energy and life, then you continue to take steps. You start with baby steps. Oh, okay, I'm gonna turn off all the lights. Next thing you know, I'm gonna go move out of the city into the suburbs. The next thing you know what, I'm gonna go move somewhere like, just nature, just quiet nature. And then, yeah, you take it as far as you want to take it. Maybe just the suburb is good enough. I know some suburbs in Canada, you're still in a neighborhood, a lot of people around, but they're very nice, quiet, orderly. That's a good step. It's quite harmonious. You sleep better. Less lights in certain neighborhoods, less lights, less noise. And then I'm just speaking about one aspect here. It's an example. You apply it to everything else. Then you dig down the rabbit holes of food and what you consume and pharmaceuticals. We gotta be careful with the YouTube algorithm here, because I've been flagged. I was in YouTube jail not long ago because of stuff. You guys know. So anyway, you catch my drift here. And as you unlearn what you have learned, and as you take the path of least resistance, the most harmonious path, your anxiety disappears. Your depression is just gone, right? It's impossible. Like it's at some point it's impossible to be depressed. At some point of unlearning and then learning, what the path of least resistance is, and applying and taking that path and going full out into it. At some point it just becomes like impossible to be depressed, right? And then you begin to implement nice habits like take a cold shower. It's hard to be anxious after a cold shower. Yeah, if you have anxiety patterns, they'll come back to you, but at least you get a nice peace for a few hours. You get what it feels like to live without anxiety. Exercise, deep breathing, anything that gets you to deep breathe, exercise, cold showers, you'll learn, oh wow, like you learn another thing, like we're so domesticated, we're so sedentary, like the controllers have created a society in which the conditions for prosperity are minimized. So then, yeah, everybody's just in their boxes, living in boxes, right? In car, office, house. You're not really moving. Our bodies are designed to move. We're the longest walking animal. Cheetah is the fastest land animal. We are the longest. We just walk. We're supposed to be walking a lot. So you start to walk. Wow, I feel better. And you start to realize that shoes though, they're unnatural. We only need them because we live in cities. Then you start to walk around barefoot in nature, and suddenly you feel better and more energized. Why? You're getting the negative ions. The earth is cleaning you. Takes the positive ions, which are like, think of them as like disturbances. You get them from EMFs and things like that, and then gives you back negative ions. Nice, calm, harmonious. Then you realize, oh wow, like this is what I mean by everything's designed against you. You walk into, like, let's say you want to go to a restaurant, or I don't know, you want to grab something, and then they're just playing like mainstream music in the background, like all restaurants and stuff do. Do you realize that like this mainstream music, to even make it on the mainstream these days anyway, used to be better in the past, but you realize like these frequencies are designed to make you anxious. You see, it really is. So like if you're living in a modern city, it's so hard to like it's so difficult. Like you can do your best until you can provide yourself with better environment, but it really is difficult. Like the whole system is rigged against you. It really is. And so you become more conscious, and then more conscious and more conscious of things, and then you start to listen to like nice music that uplifts you, Bach, Beethoven, and then you start to feel better. This music is uplifting you. There's vibrations, the EMFs that are all around, electric. So EMFs are just radiations, like waves. Some are harmonious, some are disharmonious. So when you're walking barefoot in the earth, you're getting the harmonious ones, and actually you're getting cleansed from the disharmonious ones. So yeah, that's how you're gonna get your act together. That's how you're gonna stop being depressed and anxious. It's a step It's a process. Like some people say, I used to think just take cold showers, you'll kill anxiety. Actually, no. The reason why I said that, because I already was working on these things, and when I took cold shower, it almost like took it to the next level of feeling calm. That that I just thought, yeah, everybody should do them, and the anxiety disappears. Actually, no, you have to do like all these different things, and it's just like a step by step. You're not gonna just overnight get rid of your anxiety or something. And then the traumas, I didn't even talk about the deeply stored traumas inside of your nervous system, the dysfunctional patterns, the fears, all the fears that have been passed down to you by just simply being here, right? That's a whole different topic. And you can refer to one of my videos, how to reprogram your subconscious mind to be able to work through these traumas and these fears, because if you don't work through them, again, everything is stored in your body, and they're going to be stored there, okay? And they're going to keep holding you back, putting you in anxious patterns. So it's a step by step. It takes a holistic approach to be able to be like, oh, wow, I'm free. Nobody, this socioeconomic pictures does not have power over me. I'm not afraid anymore. Because make no mistake, the very foundation of this socioeconomic matrix, which is designed to harvest negative energies, is fear. That's it, fear. All your traumas are fear-based. Everything is that is holding you back, making you anxious, depressed, is fear. And you have to work through this. It's a systematic process that takes time. I'm not gonna put a curse on you and say it takes 5 years. Maybe for you it's gonna take a year. Maybe it's gonna take 3 months. It depends on the person, how traumatized they are, what's their lifestyle like now, and if they're ready to make that quantum leap step. So I'm not gonna put a curse on you and say, oh, it takes years. It can take years. It usually takes years, but it doesn't have to. It depends. Okay? If you ask for the grace of God, then God can shorten that. If you really, really ask for it, you really connect with God. So I'm not gonna put a curse on you and say, oh, it takes 5 years. So now you go around in your head thinking it's gonna take me 5 years to not be anxious anymore. It is different. Okay? How much are you willing to push yourself? For instance, in 1 year, you can become a totally transformed person. If you just like, all right, that's it, I'm going all in. You can become a totally transformed person. Okay? All right. My sincere gratitude goes to our donors, our generous donors. Thank you guys. I really appreciate your support. If you feel a calling to support us in that way, there is a link in the description for donations. I also offer one-on-one consultation services. If you want to discuss anything really, just you can book a call. The link for the consultation is down below in the description. I'll see you guys in the next video.